Okay, so like you saw in the title, I have a couple projects that I want to finish up by the end of this year, by the end of this decade. Actually, I have more than a couple projects that I want to finish, but I have these two in particular that I keep looking at every time I open my iPad, just feeling like I need to finish them. The first one I want to finish up is an illustration I did probably late in the summer. Was a Stephen Curry illustration. I shared a little bit, I think, on my Instagram stories. If you've been following me for some time, especially on Instagram, you know, lately I've been, you know, trying to mess with doing a little bit more illustration work. I've done a couple NBA illustrations and a few others. I've done a LeBron James one, a Zion Williamson one that I think turned out pretty good. I did a Bruce Lee one, and I also did a personal Indian illustration, but the Stephen Curry illustration that I'm doing is going to be in a similar style to those, obviously. So I want to finish that, and then the other project that I want to do is a lettering quote that I've worked on. It was earlier this year, like maybe April or something, I don't know, maybe even earlier than that. But I did, the sketch is done with that. The first pass through, vectorizing it is done. I just need to tidy it up and, you know, add some color and some other things to it to make it really look nice. So yeah, those are the two projects that I want to finish before the end of this year. If you're interested in following along and want to see the process, then let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I thought I'd stop and talk a little bit about what I'm doing here. In case you haven't noticed, my drawings and these illustrations that I do, they don't really have curves. They're all straight lines. And as you saw there, they're just, I'm just making little triangles. That's basically what it is, just small little triangles here that kind of mimic pen strokes, I guess. And that's kind of the style that I'm mimicking without actually, you know, doing strokes with the pen tool. I'm using Vectornator here, and I'm using the pen tool, and I am, let's see if I could get a spot. I'll start with his like neck right here. So what I'm doing is just basically making 3 points, connecting it like a triangle, and then doing the same. Oops. It does take a little while, probably a little bit longer than it would if I actually just, you know, took a pen brush or something and traced over it. But if you put some music on or whatever, it's nice to work too. Good morning. Last night I finished the outlining for both of the illustrations that I've done. So today I'm going to spend some time coloring them, hopefully get around to shading them, and make a little bit of progress on them. Sometimes Decembers can go by so quick. You know, there's so many things going on. It's such a busy month that it just flies by. So I kind of went ahead and I've been working, you know, on these illustrations here and there for the past couple days. The scene that you just saw, that was actually a few days ago. And I've just been so busy since then that I haven't been able to really sit down and record for, you know, a long period of time. So I've just been working on, you know, these drawings just here and there, and in that time I've been able to add color also. So the clip that you just saw was me adding color to the first illustration. Since then I've also added color to the second illustration, and I've also went ahead and added like the highlights and shadows, and so that one is pretty close to being finished. I'll show it to you right here. This is what I have. This is the second illustration, and I went ahead, I added color to it. I did the highlights and the shadows to, you know, get it looking more realistic. Here's what it looks like without, you know, the shadows or the shading, and there it is with it. It just makes it look a little more professional. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the first illustration that already has color, and I'm going to add the shadows and the highlights to that as well. Alright, so I'm about to start my second project that I've been wanting to finish. It's actually a lettering quote. It says, both teams played hard. It's actually pretty funny. It comes from Rasheed Wallace when he used to play for the Portland Trail Blazers. This was like, at least, it was over 15 years ago. He was playing, and they were doing their, you know, their typical post-game press conference, and you know, these reporters or media members were asking him questions, and every time they asked him a question, he would give them the answer of
both teams play hard.
And he was obviously upset about something. I don't know. If you watch the full clip, it's actually really funny. That's why I wanted to do it, just because I find it hilarious. So for this lettering quote, I've done the sketch and I've run it through Vectornator here on the iPad. So I'm about, you know, once I do that, once I get it through like the first pass, vectorizing it, I'd like to think that that's the halfway point of the project. A big chunk of it is done, and it might seem like I'm almost close to being done, but based off of my experience and my personal process, I guess I've come to realize that that's only about the halfway point of the project, because now I really gotta tidy it up and just move the anchor points and make sure the curves are looking right, and sometimes that takes time. I actually shared a time lapse of me vectorizing it in Vectorinator. I shared that over on Instagram, so you can go and check that out if you want. So what I'm gonna do now, or what you're gonna see, is I'm just gonna basically, I don't even know how interesting it's gonna be. I'm just going to move things around. Once I'm done with that, I'm obviously gonna add some color to it. I'm thinking maybe some Portland Trailblazers colors, just because that's who he was playing for when he said it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with that, and we'll see where we end up. All right, so both illustrations are finished. They're ready to be shared. I just wanted to take this time to kind of talk about each one, how I finished them up, the process that I got to get to the finished piece, because there's a couple things that I didn't show. So I just wanted to talk about each one. Obviously, the first one here is the Stephen Curry illustration. This is what the final piece looks like. One of the problems that I encountered when I was trying to finish this illustration up was the composition of it. The two illustrations that I did, they were a little more difficult to put into one piece than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to have one kind of serve in the background, be kind of faded, you couldn't really see, but it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. So I think the layout that I came up with, I think it worked out. I flipped the bigger illustration, so he's facing the other direction from how I drew it, which can kind of be risky, because a lot of times when you flip your canvas, when you're doing illustrations, it can look kind of funky, but I think it turned out okay. And I was able to cover up because when I flipped him, the name on his jersey was reading backwards, so I was able to cover it up with the other illustration, obviously. And then for the lettering, I did the same style lettering I did with the LeBron James illustration that I did a few months ago, so sort of some grunge brush lettering. And if you notice on the main illustration, I changed up the jersey that the Warriors usually wear. The style that I did was the old We Believe jerseys, but I just did it in their current color scheme. And the only reason I did that was to just kind of differentiate it, kind of make it my own, put my own, little spin on it, I guess. But overall, I think the whole illustration, it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it. I'm excited to start on a new illustration, do something else. If you have any suggestions on who I should draw next, go ahead and let me know. All right, so the next project, the lettering one, this is how that ended up looking. I ended up putting a long shadow on it, and then I added just a small amount of grain or noise to the shadow, just to give it a little texture, I guess. My thinking was, you could put it on a black t-shirt or something. I did it in the colors of the Portland Trailblazers, so I have the red to white gradient, and then I put it on a black background. And then the letters are actually, they're see-through, they're kind of knocked out of the shadow. So whatever surface you put the design on, the background, that's what color the letters are going to end up being. So I think it looks pretty good. It'll look good as a sticker or a decal or something, but yeah, I'm happy with how it turns out. All right, so that's all I have for this video. If you made it this far, I want to say thank you. For those of you that don't know, my name is Scott Smoker. I'm a lettering artist, an illustrator, designer, creator, I guess. I don't know. I make stuff. That's what this channel is dedicated to. It's about documenting and highlighting my process and doing it in hopefully a creative way. And if that's something you're into, I hope you stick around. I have more videos coming in 2020. And with that said, I guess I will see you in the next one. Peace.